everyone, Rooster Mill here. Today we're talking about this, the Kinvara 16, and this is an out-of-the-box review. It is going to basically go over some of the design changes and what's changed compared to the Kinvara 15, the outgoing model. So let's just start with the outsole. The outsole is quite a big change. You can see there's obviously more flex screws. They've gone definitely back towards sort of like a piston lug system, which is great because I really love that from yesteryear, and definitely a bit more flex, which is what this cutout's for, to get more flex in the forefoot. Also you'll find with the midsole has changed. It's still a power run, but it's a different style of power run. It has a more of an EVA/TPU blend. So a TPU is a thermoplastic polymer, or thermopolymer, I believe. It was a polyurethane. Now, polyurethane is not found in those bouncy balls like squash balls and so forth. It has a lot of pushback, and you can definitely see that in the releasing of the foam. Versus when you're looking at the 15, you got that it's very slow to react. It's very compliable. It's very, I guess, soft-ish underfilling without having hard rubber to take away the jolt, I guess. But this here, when you press it, it really punches back a lot more than the 15. So that's the first thing we're going to notice and check for when we run with this shoe. The second thing we're going to notice with this shoe is that we're looking on the inside. There is a sort of a mesh sort of pattern, and you can see it in the shoe, which is very reminiscent of the 8 and the 7. 8 and 7, you can see it definitely in the tongues. And you can also see the deep flex screws in the 8. I just wish this had more deep flex screws than just the one up the top. And another thing we've got to look at too is they're saying that this is a 29 to 25 millimeter in stack height for a 4mm drop, saying it was going back to the original stack height of the original Kinvara. Well, I always thought the Kinvara was a little bit less. So, unfortunately, I had to do something drastic to my Kinvara 6. This is my old trusty Kinvara 6. It's seen some better days. Now, obviously, you can see the flex grooves and so forth, and the later piston lug system where that used to come out. But I cut it in half, so you can actually see where the piston lug system used to come up into. And they used to actually have a heel unit, which was either Power Run or Pro Grid, or Power Grid. And then they went to an Ever Run, which is like very similar to Power Run PB or Power Run Plus. It's like a beaded compound. And that used to be great because Kinvaras weren't great at downhill at all. They weren't really that great at running downhill at all. You definitely feel the jolt. You definitely feel it go right through your quads. So what we're going to do, grab the old tape, trusty tape measure, and have a look. So if we go even off the centerpiece there and come in and have a look, hopefully the camera will pick it up. There we go. There it is there. That's not even 30 millimeters. Even at the thickest part, it's not even 30 millimeters. Now, even if there was an inner sole in that and we slid it up to there, that allowed for the heel, gave you 25 at the heel. Nowhere near the 30 that they're saying. So there's a big discrepancy in what they're saying to actually what the old Kinvara was. A couple of other design features on the Kinvara 16 is obviously these lock-in systems. Now these are, I won't say reminiscent of Pro Lock system from the earlier models, but are very similar to Nike Flywire and so forth. But the best thing about these is that you don't actually need to have it through that loop. If you look through there, you'll actually find it actually goes through the center. So if you don't want these, you don't have to use these, and then you can actually take that on. So the only design flaw I found with this is that if you wanted to put another hole in there, you can't, because there's a cutout there. So if that was filled in and you needed to use that, you're going to have to run a big lace loop and then run it through and go across. While we're in this area, let's just focus on the tongue here for a second. The tongue seems a little shorter in the 16 versus the 15, and there is a wing tongue design which came up a little bit higher than what the 16 is showing here. Which is kind of a shame because I did actually like the asymmetrical lacing system and the wing design of the tongue. So another design aspect of the 16 is the teal mutant colorway, which is very reminiscent of this teal mutant colorway, and even on the outsole, very similar. So there's a lot of throwback to the number 11. Now, I actually hated the 11 and the 10. I didn't like it one little bit, probably hate's a strong word, but this, it's so firm. It was so horrible underfoot that I ended up actually giving it to my son, who's basically the same size as me in shoes. But the colorway and designs are very, very similar, if not identical, in a lot of ways. However, this is a lot lighter than the 11. The 11 feels like a brick compared to this. It feels a lot heavier compared to this. It's so much denser in the foam too. Overall, the Kinvara 16 has gone through some drastic changes. And in a way, it's like a redesign, but a Frankenstein redesign. It's like they've taken aspects from all the other past Kinvaras and shoved it into this one shoe, which I like. I like the elf wheel that they've added, which wasn't in the Kinvara, but I think it was actually in the Speeds. But the outsole was very reminiscent of the 7s and the 8s. The see-throughness and that sort of dotted pattern you can see inside is very reminiscent of the 8 and some 7s. I even like the teal mutant colorway, which is very similar to the teal mutant colorway that was in the 11. That feels like a brick compared to this. It's very hard for me to say teal mutant without following up Ninja Turtle, like teal mutant Ninja Turtle, heroes with a 4mm power run. So overall, the proof's obviously going to be in the pudding. It's going to be when we take it out for a run and we get probably a few kilometres on it and so forth, which I'm going to take out this afternoon for a run if this rain holds off. And we're back with this shoe. A little less hair and a little bit more wear on this shoe after 300 kilometres. So everything about this upper has been absolutely fantastic. The upper's been breathable, it hasn't frayed, I've got no holes in the upper. The tongue has held in position by the gusseted tongue, and obviously the loop on the front of the tongue, if you want to call it that. The lace lock system, or the fly wire, or the pro lock, whatever you want to call these wires here, you do notice them at the start. However, over time you don't notice them, and it just becomes part of putting the shoe on. The heel has had no blistering or slippage or anything like that, so the upper has fitted and held really well, like you expect a Kinvara to do. I think this is probably one of the best fitting Kinvaras I've had for a while. I just wish it still had that asymmetrical lacing system that it had on the previous version. However, it's been really good. I've actually really enjoyed it. The only downside to this was actually the sock liner. I took out the existing sock liner because in the forefoot, where your ball or your foot is, it wore quite thin. So I swapped it out for an old Kinvara Pro, which has like whatever this is. I think it's a Power Run Plus sock liner in it, and it has made it an even better ride. It has added a little bit of weight to it, but it's potato really. The only downside to this was missing the eyelet here in that part there, as I mentioned previously in the video. However, I did overcome that by actually just doing the sort of a runner's knot just down further, just so I can get that sort of the cinch in a little bit better. Just hold that part of the foot, just stops it, just hold it a bit better. It's the best way to describe it. Just holds it a bit better. The foam has held up really well. In previous Kinvaras, once it gets about 300 kilometres, 250, that you start to feel the foam not break down, but sort of deaden a bit, especially in the forefoot. This has maintained its resilience quite well. If you want to call it foam endurance, it's been the same from start to finish, and I've been really, really happy with this foam. It's probably one of the best foams on the Kinvaras to date. The only downside I'd have to say would be the wear. I think the rubber placement on this is a little bit lackluster. You can see there's like a few millimeters difference here to the edge. If they just brought that out a bit further, even probably wrapped up on the side a little bit further, I probably wouldn't get as much as all this lateral heel wear. Especially in the center of I wish I had a bit more rubber here. If I was going to suggest anything for this shoe, I'd say probably put like that type of rubber system on it, like they had in the Saucony Speed 2. Even if they just had that black strip up the center, or even just 3 dots or something along those lines, just so that you can protect it a little bit more. But I know that this shoe has been fantastic. One of the downsides to the Saucony line is that this is the only 4mm drop shoe in their range that I know of. If you want to go up from this for a bit more cushion, you'd have to go to the Ride. Now, I did take this on a probably a medium and a longer run, which medium for me was about 16 Ks, which is about 10 mile on the old scale. And I did do a half marathon distance in this, about 20, 21 and 22 Ks in it overall. And the shoe held up really well. To be honest, my legs felt more beat up after the 16K than it did doing the 20K or 20 odd Ks in it. But this shoe can do the distance if your feet are strong enough. So it's a really good shoe. But if you want a little bit more cushion and you like this 4mm heel drop, the Saucony range doesn't have that shoe. The Ride has an 8mm, the Triumph has an 8mm. If you go up to the Hurricane, I think it actually drops back down to a 6mm, 6 or 5mm. But you still, if you like a 4mm, you have to go to a different brand. So in that aspect, I went to a different shoe, which is obviously the Ultra Flow V2, which is not a bad shoe. These shoes are very, very similar and they're on par. The foam in this is probably a bit better, but this is a nice softer ride using their Ego P35. And then if you want to go up from that for more cushioning, for more protection, you can either A, go to the Hurricane, or I've been running in the Ultra Forward V2, which has quite a lot of stack. And it gives me basically the same feeling as the Kinvara, but in just a more cushion ride. So how do I use this shoe? I like to use this shoe I use most of my shoes as a tool. So I use this from 10K down. I like to use it for probably from medium pace to up tempo paces. I like to do some strides in it. I like it as a fast pace shoe, but it is an all-round shoe. It can do everything. If you like to put the time in and build some foot strength. If you're so used to running in nice, big, fat, cushy shoes and things like that, that's fine. But sometimes you got to build your metatarsals. You build that foot strength, and that's why the Kinvara is really good. It's great in their rotation. Overall, I've been really stoked with this shoe. For $199 Australian, it's been a really good entry-level shoe, or entry price point, considering some of our carbon-plated shoes are around $300 to $400. The prices are getting right up there for shoes. It's quite ridiculous. However, the Kinvara has stayed the same for me. I've really enjoyed this version. I'd have to say this is going down as probably one of the better Kinvaras. I'm looking forward to see what the Kinvara 17 has to produce. Hopefully I'm putting some new content out shortly. Yeah. Thanks for watching.